Hey, greetings everybody. It's GleeCon, and I'm back again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, it was a Thanksgiving episode. We took yesterday off. Wasn't the original plan, but we were sort of in. It was a long, hardworking day on Thanksgiving. I was pretty wiped by the end of it, and then ended up celebrating my brother-in-law's birthday the next day. So. Um, Kind of just cut out the window for when I was going to make the next episode, but that's all right. We got to it today. Thanks for tuning back in. On that last one on Thanksgiving, we took our restoration druid, and we got actually some good luck. We teamed up with someone, and we managed to kill most of the quests in Stone Talon that were still left. We've only got a few left. I think maybe one more episode, and we should be able to wrap up that zone. We've also been reading through the World of Warcraft magazine. We just started the fourth issue of the first volume, so we're getting nearer and nearer to the end, and that one really was all focused on why they chose Worgen and Goblins as the new playable races for the Cataclysm expansion, and just their starting zone, some mount choices, just little things about that behind the scenes process of making that selection. But now, stay a while and listen. We're going to kick another episode off where we look at this World of Warcraft Official Magazine. This is called The World Inside a World. The World of Warcraft team has planted plenty of shout-outs to the world outside of Azeroth, if you know where to look for them. World of Warcraft is chock full of tributes and sly winks to the things that we do for fun outside of Azeroth. References to movies, TV shows, music, books, sports, and even other games can be found hidden in the quests, NPCs, and items scattered throughout the world. We've compiled a collection of some of our editor's favorites, but there are tons more. Keep your eyes and ears open, especially with achievements. That's all over. So culture, let's see, that's the type of article. Here's the Men in Black, Little Goblin. Area 52's entrances are guarded by natty goblins in dark suits. Wait, you didn't notice? What about that beam of light from the A52 neuralizer? No? Okay, never mind. Forget I said anything. So these are all things that came from movies. The Big Lebowski, I remember this one too. The Dude, an Alliance NPC named Lebronsky, abides in the Howling Fjord, sometimes tormented by Walt. A little further north is Donnie, who starts the quest Out of My Element. Bonus point, the Horde engineering trainer in Hellfire Peninsula is Zebig, while a gnome named Lebowski is the Alliance trainer. If you can't make it to the local theaters, no worries. Some of the finest cinema is now playing in Azeroth. Starship Troopers, Star Wars. If you get to Toshley's station, come for the power converters, but stay for the bug invasion, fended off by Razak Ironsides and his Rough Riders. You don't do your job, I'll shoot you myself. Say hello to R3DO on your way in. I know exactly what quests they're talking about. I never made the Starship Troopers connection before. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Tributes to this movie and its sequels abound in Azeroth. Harrison Jones pops up everywhere, which is appropriate for a man of action. Hit Irenaeus Chamber in Uldaman to relive the staff of Rossi and think model cities and lasers. In Stormwind, Harrison is in education mode as an archaeology trainer, so watch out for frisky students. Zoolander. Nothing says epic like a good-natured gasoline fight. Head on over to Kazan. You'll have to roll a goblin, but it's a short walk from the starting point to watch ridiculously good-looking goblin supermodels have some fun. Bambi. Bambina is frolicking with pals Thudder and Flora near the Westfall Brigade encampment in the Grizzly Hills. It's idyllic, at least until a hunter cuts down Bambina's mother. Now someone's going to pay. Oh, and the Wizard of Oz. Head to Karazhan's Opera House and speak to Barnes. Quick, you're on. There's no guarantee that you'll see Dorothy and Tito, but come back next week for another shot. The Big Bad Wolf or Romulo and Julianne aren't bad shows either. Oh, Glenn Ross. Here's where they kind of tie some of the movie scenes in. If you were kind of looking at it, there's Bambi. That's Toshley Station. This is that's Raiders of the Lost Ark where he's teaching. That's the Zoolander. If you're looking for a motivational speech, Blake Lau is the guy to give it to you. Hang out with the siege engineers in Warsong Hold in Borean Tundra, and you'll be treated to a performance by the Goblin Alec Baldwin. Put the Morning Glory Dew down. Morning Glory Dew is for crafters only. Austin Powers. You won't find Austin in Azeroth, not if he's a good spy, but you will find some of Dr. Evil's best pals. Mr. Bigglesworth lurks in the Naxxramas entrance, and smiting him is a temptation most raids can't resist. In the Goblin starting area of the quest, a Goblin in Shark's Clothing tasks you with operating a mechanical shark with a freaking laser beam. Question 1. What do Kristen Scott Thomas, Leslie Ann Warren, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Olivia Newton-John have in common? The answer is on page 27. Let's just jump right to the answer. We got to find out. The answer is they are referenced by the family bankers in Stormwind, the Westmills, the Wainwrights, the Cresters, and the Burnsides. Interesting. So they're all named after these actresses, I guess. All right, so now for music, well, there's the experimental pilot Elton John in Area 52. All this science, I don't understand. Look, it's just my job 5 days a week. Rocket Man. Clam Master K after Gem Master J. Clam Master resides deep underwater near the Lion's Keep in Borean Tundra. The Jam Master is a founding member of hip-hop legend Run DMC. Ringo, Beatles or Ngoro Crater. He's stranded in a cave without a drum kit in sight. With a little helper from my friends, he can get back to safety. Oh, that's funny. I never drew the connection. I never really looked at his name was Ringo when I did that quest. Lollapalooza has nothing on the World of Warcraft. See these famous artists performing nightly for the Music Hall of Fame. Gimme Shelter is a Vizier quest based for the Rolling Stones song. Ain't Too Proud to Beg, another Vizier quest, Rolling Stones song. Rocket Man is an Area 52 NPC that we read about, Elton John. Return to Sender is a Dragonblight quest, Elvis Presley song. Welcome to the Jungle. Welcome to the Jungle. Shelazar Basin quest, Guns N' Roses. Skills to Pay the Bills is a Profession Achievement, BC Boys song. The Safety Dance is a Naxxramas achievement, Men Without Hat song. Yeah, I did know that too. The Killing Moon is an Echo and the Bunnymen song and a Battle for the Undercity questline. Okay, Ambassador Berrybuck, Councilman Millstipe. That's funny. REM Michael Stipe, REM Darkshire. This pair may appear to be two local politicians, but they're actually named after four guys. Bill Berry, Peter Buck, Mike Mills, and Michael Stipe, the original members of REM. They go gardening at night. Susie the Banshee, Scarlet Enclave, formerly a Death Knight trainer during Wrath of the Lich King testing, now a tribute to the influential punk band Susie and the Banshees. Braun Yam, Godfather of Soul, James Brown. He is the hardest working boss in the Forge of Souls. If you still have doubts that this is a tribute to James Brown, looting Papa's brand new bag should erase them. Hey. Here's a second question. What song comes to mind when you ride a magnificent flying carpet or a frosty flying carpet? I don't know, like Aladdin song. Let's look to that page also. Let's jump ahead and get the answer. A Whole New World from Aladdin. The Mount's buffs are lines from the song. Oh, the Mount's buffs are lines from the song. Interesting. A Whole New World. All right, so now other games where they have tapped into other games. StarCraft, sure, it's a bit self-referential, but it makes up for it by being cool. When the Zergling and Grunty pets meet, they battle. When the Zergling wins, it's a little gross. That's funny, I never knew that. I remember doing this side quest. And you play chess, joust, Plants vs. Zombies. I don't know what the cake. Oh, that's from Portal. Sewer Shark. This is one of our first titles for the Sega CD game system. Sega CD is a shark in the Dalaran sewers. Ah, now it makes sense. World of Warcraft isn't the only diversion in town, but you don't need to leave Azeroth to enjoy these Plants vs. Zombies. This turns into a series of quests in the Hillsbrad foothills which players pick Peacebloom versus Ghouls. Succeed and you'll earn yourself Brazy's Sunflower, a companion to make your quests more melodious. Joust, a series of quests in Mount Hyjal, serve as a tribute to this arcade classic, which sort of defies description. Imagine knights jousting while riding flying ostriches. Chess, deep in Karazhan, there's a game room where you can take on Medivh in a nice game of chess. Careful, he cheats. And Portal, the achievement "The Cake is Not a Lie" contradicts graffiti found on a wall of the Aperture Library's Enrichment Center laboratories. The book Thinking with Portals, a memorandum on proper portal usage, spawned sporadically in Dalaran. Now you're thinking with portals is the closing statement in the Portal teaser. So they did tag a little bit of that. Oh, they've got some reference to books as well. Just because you hang out in dungeons or battlegrounds doesn't mean you can't read. Meet Azeroth's literati. Arcanist Ginsburg and Alchemist Burrows. You'll find this pair chatting in Dalaran's Purple Point Parlor. They don't appear to be howling or eating lunch, but they're referencing Allen Ginsberg and William S. Burroughs, two influential beat writers. Yogg Saron et al. While there's no H.P. Lovecraft character in Azeroth, the horror writer's influence is clear. Ulduar's Yogg Saron is a tip of the hat to Yogg Sothos and the Cthulhu mythos, also known as Cthulhu in Ahn'Qiraj, Dectrin Ward in the original Stockade, and various faceless enemies. William Shakespeare, although you could make an argument that pretty much anything in English is a Shakespearean reference. Pound of Flesh, anyone? Romulo and Julian are definitely a tribute to Romeo and Juliet. They are part of the rotation in Karazhan's opera event. That's 1 and 2 there. Hemet Nessingwary, American writer Ernest Hemingway, was noted for his rather macho way of life, which included safaris, hunting, fighting, and consumption of alcohol. Questlines and an achievement, Hills Like White Alec, related to Nessingwary, reference Hemingway's body of work. Third question, why does the name of Area 52's innkeeper Remy Dodoso sound vaguely alien? Let's find out the answer to that. Her name is composed of the notes in the solfege scale used to communicate with the aliens in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Re, mi, do, so. Interesting. Television. Wherever your quests may take you, be on the lookout for some extra drama or comedy. Futurama. Icecrown Citadel boss Professor Putricide sounds eerily similar to Professor Farnsworth, especially when he shouts, "Good news, everyone," when what he's going to tell you isn't good news. MacGyver. The secret agent is busy repairing a plane at Valgard, cleverly disguised as MacGyver. We say cleverly because it appears that MacGyver is using real tools. The X-Files. Alien shenanigans abound in Area 52, but you won't find Mulder and Scully there. Death Guard Mulder is near Venomspite in Dragonblight. Agent Scully is a bit south of him in New Hearthglen. Lost. These poor people were more lost than you think. Head to Bittertide Lake in Shilazar Basin and you'll find a vault marked 5, 9, 16, 17, 24, 43. Monty Python's Flying Circus. Terry Palin in the Eastvale logging camp in Elwyn Forest is a lumberjack, and he'll tell you he's okay. If you're a mite peckish, then when the Dark Moon Fair is active, you can nosh on some crunchy frog. See, I didn't catch all these, although when reading them, I was like, oh yeah, duh. Pop quiz. What are each of the in-game items referring to? If you're a pop culture genius, you can try heroic difficulty, which is naming the references only by the item. Using the flavor text provides a hint, dropping the difficulty to normal. Heroic. All right, so we have to match them. Power converter. That feels like Star Trek, maybe. Shark bait. That's maybe Nemo. Crude eating utensils. Don't know. The Seal of Danzilar. Red Rider air rifle. That's a Christmas Story. Strange engine part. I don't know. Let's look at the flavor text. Destroys technological terror constructs. Oh, I have options here. Okay, so power converter. Let's see. Well, shark bait, I see Nemo over here, so now we just keep swimming. Yeah, finding Nemo. Dory sings the text to Marlin. The icon is Nemo. Yeah, that's easy. There is no spoon. Well, now I was already leaning towards Matrix because of that. That's the Matrix. From a conversation Neo has about how the Matrix works, Spoon Boy, do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. Neo, what truth? Spoon Boy, there is no spoon. All right, so that we definitely have two. From beneath you, it devours. Ew, gross. Okay, so then we have Red Ryder air rifle and official Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot range model air rifle. Yes, that's definitely Christmas Story. This is 9-year-old Ralphie's object of desire. So we have 3 of 6 matched up. Strange engine part, it reads Capison 38 on the bottom. All right, so now we need power converter, Seal of Danzlar, and strange engine part. Well, we have Star Wars. You can get this item at Toshi Station. Luke had to pick it up at Toshi Station. Vader on the Death Star, don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. Well, yeah, that obviously goes with number 1, which is, I was already kind of leaning towards, I think I said Star Trek, but Star Wars for sure. All right, and that just leaves me a 50-50 chance. Seal of Danzlar, strange engine part, and our 2 choices are Buffy and Firefly. One of many references to the sci-fi TV series Don't Pay Anybody in Advance and Don't Ride in Anything with a Capison 38 engine, they fall right out of the sky. Kaylee Fry, well, that's obviously number 6, and that means Buffy must be the Seal of Danzlar. A gateway to hell was closed by the Seal of Danzalthar, and the flavor text here was a cryptic warning of the apocalypse. Okay, and then they give you the answers. 1 was, in fact, Star Wars. We were right. 2 was, yes, Finding Nemo. 3 was F, The Matrix. 4, we just chalked that up as Buffy. 5 was Christmas Story, and then that means 6 was Firefly. That's cool. All right, so I think we still have time, I think, for one more article. Another feature one. This is called What in the World is Going On? 5 new zones highlight Deathwing's terror and his weaknesses. Deathwing's emergence has shaken Azeroth to its core, drawing the elements themselves into the fray. The awakened dragon aspect seeks to destroy Azeroth by manipulating the elemental lords from the Skywall and the Abyssal Maw, turning them against the Alliance, the Horde, and all mortal life. During the elemental invasion, the lords found a way to break through the elemental plane, a prison built by the Titans, to send armies into major cities throughout the land. Yet it was when Deathwing made his return to Azeroth, shattering the World Pillar in Deepholm, that the elemental plane collided with the physical realm, resulting in drastic geographic upheaval and natural disasters. However, Deathwing's chaos may be his own undoing. The changes to Azeroth's landscape have opened up access to new zones where players can take the offensive in the struggle in Vizir, Mount Hyjal, Deepholm, Uldum, and the Twilight Highlands. And the Alliance and the Horde have the opportunity to take down Deathwing, the Destroyer, and his followers, and restore balance to a world that has been ripped apart. Picture of that. Okay, so here's our Heart of Stone. This is one of the zones. Unstable with seismic activity, caves and tunnels fill the craggy area. Ragnaros is certainly a threat, and Neptulon needs your help, but eventually you'll have to leave these zones to travel through the Maelstrom to Deepholm. For years, Deathwing was contained within the Temple of Earth, nursed back to health by the Twilight's hammer with Elementium armor bonded to his broken body. Then he escaped. Each of the elemental planes, if you recall your Titan history, says lead content designer Corey Stockton, are prisons to hold the elementals. And prisons have locks to keep inmates, or elementals in this case, inside. The World Pillar was essentially a huge lock to keep Deepholm locked down. When Deathwing broke through into Azeroth, he shattered the whole pillar, and that's one of the reasons why Deepholm is threatening to expand into Azeroth, and elementals are pouring into the world. Therazane the Stone Mother, the Earth Elemental Lord, commands a central hub with daily quests in this level 82 to 83 zone that has one 5-player dungeon, the Stone Core. The zones and even the creatures within them are made of strange crystals, rocks, minerals, and ore. Unstable with seismic activity, caves and tunnels fill the craggy area. Corey describes the zone as basically a planet that's blown open from the inside out. Though it may be awe-inspiring to look at, the citizens of Azeroth don't want it on their front porch. So it became a principal quest line within Deepholm to put the World Pillar back together, to help the Earthen Ring, to help Thrall and the Maelstrom up above, to control this crazy void that threatens to overtake the world. Okay, that's one of the zones. Forget the rainforest, save the world tree. It feels as though Ragnaros may be lurking around any number of burnt and smoldering tree trunks. Mount Hyjal, located between Fellwood and Winterspring and Kalimdor, acts as the second starting zone for level 80 players to pick from. The stretch of land was previously unreachable, though players could enter the Hyjal of old during a Caverns of Time raid. However, as a main undertaking for Cataclysm was the reworking of Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms, it made sense to revisit Hyjal and make it accessible to players in the present tense. Mount Hyjal is interesting because some form of it has been in the game since World of Warcraft shipped. The basis was there in the world, says Corey. With these other 4 zones, we were creating them completely from scratch based on brand new ideas. With Hyjal, we were working with an existing idea. In Cataclysm, after Deathwing lets Ragnaros loose to destroy Nordrassil, the World Tree, it's up to the players to protect it, but the designers felt that there was more at stake than a sacred tree. Whenever we do content that the players are familiar with, it becomes more about managing expectations, says lead world designer Alex Afrasiabi. You have to be careful that you don't veer too far off into Crazyland because it already has its layout. It already has a base storyline, a foundation. We had to be really careful that there was no question that this was Mount Hyjal, and then we had to bring it up to date in terms of why couldn't we go into it before? Why now? What's going on? Until Cataclysm, Malfurion and Stormrage kept the outside world at bay by covering Hyjal in a protective overgrowth, but with the region threatened, Azeroth must come to his aid. Ragnaros was going to come up, Deathwing was bringing him out, and he was going to burn Hyjal from the bottom up and ultimately try to burn the World Tree to fuel his crazy war machine, Alex explains. Mount Hyjal uses terrain phasing, and when you arrive in the zone, smoke already fills the air. Alongside Malfurion and the Guardians of Hyjal, players cool off fire elementals, cross paths with Worgen, step into the Emerald Dream and meet the Twilight Dragonflight, all while trying to stop the forest from burning. The top of the mountain is lush and beautiful with sparkling pools, elegant night elf architecture, and the massive roots of the World Tree clutching the hillside. Below, fire elementals burn paths through the woods. Lava creeps across the ground, and shrines, landscapes, and ruins are ablaze. Ragnaros' vision of the world come true. Though players cannot yet venture into the Sulfuron Spire and the entrance to Firelands, it feels as though Ragnaros may be lurking around any number of burnt and smoldering tree trunks. Okay, so Elementals, dear Watson. A crash course straight from the Elemental Planes on everything you need to know about the Elemental Lords. Ragnaros the Fire Lord, exiled back to the Firelands after being defeated in the Molten Core. Ragnaros has since aligned himself with Deathwing and now leads the attack on the World Tree on the top of Mount Hyjal. Alakir, the Wind Lord, within the Skywall, the second of Deathwing's elemental allies, is the final boss in the Throne of the Four Winds raid. Therazane, the Stone Mother, while the Temple of Earth is crumbling around her, she offers daily quests in Deepholm that reward reputation for a faction sharing her name. And Neptulon, the Tide Hunter, Naga are knocking at his door in Vizir, and he needs your help to repel the cursed beasts, and Ozumat, a kraken with a bad attitude. Enchantment Under the Sea. Cataclysm offers players 2 starting zones for level 80 players to choose, Vizir and Mount Hyjal. Quests leading to both starting zones and all of the new zones as you reach the appropriate level can be found at a bulletin board in the faction's capital cities. Alliance players should look for the Heroes Call board, and Horde players will want to find the War Chief's command board. Vizir, the sunken city once populated with night elves, now overflows with violent Naga, which players will have to face in the depths of the ocean. Though his power is strong, Deathwing was not able to lure all of the Elemental Lords to his will. In Vizir, players are not leading the charge against an Elemental Lord. Rather, they're defending Neptulon the Tide Hunter, Lord of Water, from waves of Naga who seek to control Azeroth's oceans. The zone begins with a shipwreck that leaves you and your crewmates trapped underwater, where Naga patrol in every direction. Giant sea pens, kelp, and bioluminescent plant life, all a variety of bright colors, sway in the current and riddle the underwater landscape. Tropical fish dart about in schools, and algae covers Romanesque ruins, so the whole thing looks like a huge extravagant fish tank. The only thing missing is a treasure chest that spurts out bubbles. In the very early stages of the zone, Aranak Stone Speaker of the Earth Ring casts a spell that allows you to breathe and move more effortlessly underwater, so you can freely roam the 3 sections of Vizir: Kelpthar Forest, the Shimmering Expanse, and the Abyssal Depths. As you work to defend Neptulon and close the abyssal breach that connects the elemental plane in Azeroth, you'll discover more than just beauty in the treacherous waters. Kelpthar Forest introduces a race of underwater goblins, a Jaws-like questline, and an aquatic seahorse mount to help you zip through the water. The Shimmering Expanse features a high-speed seahorse chase, the crumbling ruins of the city of Vajir, and Nespera, a mysterious and enormous demigod enslaved by the Twilight's Hammer and the Naga. The Abyssal Depths house another suffering demigod, Lugorak, as well as the Abyssal Breach and the entrance to Vajir's 5-player dungeon, Throne of the Tides. Inside the instance, a force field keeps water out of many of the magnificent hallways, but the clear structure allows a glimpse at the monstrosities attacking his last stronghold, while Naga bursted the watery walls and a kraken blocked you at every turn. Throne of the Tide structure is unique to the instance. The rest of Vajir is an open water environment where players can explore in any direction. A simple quest involving taking an item from point A to point B is made more interesting due to the fact that point B could be anywhere above or below where your character is floating. This, combined with the idea of an entire zone relying on underwater combat, may make some players nervous, but the quest objectives and paths are intuitive, and the combat and movement mechanics have been revamped to create a more seamless experience. I mean, it's interesting. Players are defending Neptulon the Tidehunter, Lord of Water, from waves of Naga. In the original pitch for the zone, we had 3 huge underwater bubbles, says Corey, and when you stepped into them, you were going to play in them. They were similar to what we had in Netherstorm, but much larger, 4 times the size of those. The gameplay would be just like you were on land. Essentially, you were in this bubble full of air under the water. It turns out those didn't feel right for Vajir. It made no sense with the story or the lore going on there, so we basically scrapped that and came up with the idea of snapping players to the ground so that whenever they get close to it, they stick to it and play as if they're on normal land. The design team also improved underwater movement by increasing swim speed in Vajir compared to other zones, allowing your character to jump off the ground and immediately begin swimming, and including a unique hopping animation for walking along the ocean floor. Now you can swim off a ledge above an enemy, hit the ground behind them, and unleash your attacks effortlessly. Though you do fight some enemies in open water, Corey says that this combat experience is the exception. The quest guys were very careful to try to not make you kill creatures that swim around a lot of the time. The majority of creatures you kill are on the ground because it's very hard to perceive 3D space underwater. For Alex, grounding creatures was a matter of necessity. We played the zone repeatedly, and initially we had a lot more quests that had you swimming around. Depending on the class, which with ranged classes being less terrible, it ranged from being fun to not fun at all. The art in Vajir was amazing from the beginning, Corey says. The level design team just went completely crazy working with artists and dungeon groups to create all the assets for that. We were just trying to make sure that the gameplay was up to the same standard. And the fourth one, and probably final one, is Walk Like a Tol'vir. The World Pillar was not the only thing damaged during Deathwing's escape into Azeroth. Uldum, previously hidden southeast of Tanaris by a Titan cloaking device, appeared like a mirage in the desert once Deathwing broke loose. Inhabited by the Tol'vir, a race of stone-like cat people, Uldum is a depository of Titan knowledge and lore. Within the skywall above Uldum is a 5-player dungeon, the Vortex Pinnacle, and the Throne of the Four Winds raid that offers players a chance to face Alakir the Windlord. Deathwing's presence can be felt on the sands of Uldum as well, where the Tol'vir race is split into 2 factions. Those who pledge their loyalty to the fiery dictator are rewarded by having the curse of flesh removed from their bodies, transforming them into living stone, while those who do not swear allegiance remain flesh and bone. Players can fight alongside the latter faction, the Ramkahen, as they make their way through the zone. This level 84 to 85 zone is marked by a blend of Egyptian-inspired structures and bizarre technology. Uldum is a Titan zone, and whenever we say Titan zone, the first thing that comes to mind is architecture, Alex says. Titans have a very specific type of architectural style, which is similar but distinct from location to location. If you go from Uldaman to Ulduar, for example, there are pillars and huge monolithic structures, but they all represent that Roman or Grecian look. With Uldum being in the south, we wanted to do what we really didn't hit on in Silithus with the Karaji. When you look at pictures of the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, everyone is awestruck by that look and feel, Corey says. The giant river that runs through the middle of Uldum is a huge part of that. We wanted to have a Nile-like river that goes through and flows out into a delta in the end. We had a lot of really solid reference pieces that we knew were going to be awesome if we just put the World of Warcraft spin on them. Okay, so it looks like we can finish it with this one final page, and that'll be the end of our episode for today. Portals put new zones a click away. After accomplishing a few steps in the questline that takes you into a new zone for the first time, a portal will open outside of your capital city so that you can easily return to the new area without changing your Hearthstone location. Mount Hyjal, Vajir, Deepholm, the Maelstrom, Uldum, the Twilight Highlands, and the PvP region Tol Barad are all ultimately accessible this way. In Stormwind, head to the small island northeast of the Dwarven District, the Horde can find Orgrimmar's portals in the northern part of the Valley of Wisdom. And there's Team Thrall versus Team Deathwing. Deathwing began his destructive arc in Deepholm and blazed a trail through Vajir, Mount Hyjal, and Uldum, but it all ends in the Twilight Highlands. Deathwing's strongest foothold and his last line of defense, the Twilight Highlands, is home to the Twilight Dragonflight, Twilight's Hammer cultists, and their leader Choke Gall. No one yet fully comprehends Deathwing's plans for his newly bred Twilight Dragonflight, previously seen in the Obsidian Sanctum and the Ruby Sanctum, but within Twilight Highlands their numbers are growing. The Twilight's Hammer may be disorganized throughout Azeroth, but within the Twilight Highlands they're ready to strike out on Choke Gall's order. The only way to stop them is for members of the Alliance or the Horde to enter the Bastion of Twilight Raid Dungeon and defeat the Twisted Ogre Mage who stands as the final boss. While Deathwing's and the Elemental's chaos reaches across continents, the Twilight Highlands paint a more disturbing picture of what may come of Azeroth. Ghastly gaping mouths and tentacles mar the landscape in the maw of madness, and old magic and darkness grow more powerful every day. There are still a few rays of hope, such as the hillside towns in the Thundermar region, but the Twilight Highlands are a sign of Deathwing's ultimate goal. As he tightens his grip on the world, Azeroth must retaliate as one by traveling the globe and bringing aid to the highest mountains, deepest seas, crumbling plains, and plagued deserts. Only then will you distinguish Deathwing's fire. Alright, so on the next episode we'll read about the Cataclysm dungeons. But this episode is in the pipe 5x5. Thank you everyone so much for watching and for listening, and I will see you all next time on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft. Peace out.